am Dena, and welcome to another discussion with Dena. A recent study finds many older adults think that they will never retire and worry about making ends meet. According to this study that was published by the Associated Press, this article revealed that there are an overwhelming number of people that have expressed that everyday expenses and housing costs, including rent and mortgage payments, are the biggest reasons that they themselves, as well as others, are unable to save for retirement. These exceedingly high basic costs for everyday living, and many are the reasons that most people are lacking access to retirement savings options and making it increasingly difficult to almost impossible for one to even choose when they should and can retire. This is according to AARP Senior Vice President of Research, Indira Venkataswaran. Now, the biggest barrier to saving more for retirement is the overly exorbitant prices that are being paid for their rent. And we cannot deny the cost of rent and our mortgage today. It is beyond through the roof, along with the very expensive expenditures that come from the basic costs that it takes to maintain a home or a rental, like electricity. It is through the roof. And we certainly cannot leave out the expensive price tags today on goods and services that are offered. Everyday expenses are indeed the top barrier to saving more for retirement. And some older Americans say they are feeling it, so they don't even expect to retire. Now, the AARP study was based on completed interviews with over 8,000 people in coordination with the NORC, Center for Public Affairs Research. Now, NORC stands for the National Opinion Research Center. Now, it finds that 1/3 of older adults with credit card debt carry a balance of more than $10,000, and 12% have a balance of $20,000 or more. Additionally, 37% are worried about meeting basic living costs such as food and housing, and many find themselves even using credit cards to assist with making their ends meet, which we know this leads to another problem altogether. We need to look no further than to Days Mounting Credit Cards debt reports. Data is just out here, and it's stating the impact on the average person in America. Surprisingly, wages do not increase according to the cost of living or inflation. If it did, it would certainly alleviate the need to have to use credit cards to supplement income, and it would relieve many people from the slavery that becomes debt. Credit companies are well aware of this desperate need by some to supplement the lack of income that they don't have, and most rely on this need to charge exceedingly high APRs. And other lenders use this to utilize what is called predatory lending options. Sometimes 35%, 40% interest on very small loans or credit cards, and even using the desperation by consumers to their own advantage to obtain whatever small capital that that person may already own. Like, for instance, they'll use their automobile or their home as collateral, and they'll use that value in it. And many times when these people go after these things that they have, that people have obtained, the loans don't even equal up to it, but they'll put liens on it. And so these companies decide to issue liens over their small predatory loans or lines of credit. But if they have these large APRs, and especially if they are the kinds that are variable, this creates another form of debt, which also is a form of slavery. Now, about one quarter of U.S. adults aged 50 and older who are not yet retired admit that they do not expect to ever retire, and 70% of them were clearly concerned about prices that are rising faster than their income. And this once again, is according to the AARP survey. Now, research also found that 1 in 4 have no retirement savings, and aging Americans are seriously worried more and more about how to make ends meet. In spite of this, economists and politicians and policymakers, they continue to insist to us that the U.S. economy has all but achieved a soft landing. It's been over, what, 4 years? And we still have record breaking inflation. And as I always remind others when they give me these talking propaganda points, the economy saying that it's doing well means nothing if the average person cannot see it reflected in their daily life. If it's not represented in the money they have on hand, in their bank accounts, their grocery, when they go to the grocery store or shopping, when they pay for goods and services, until we can actually see it having a positive effect on us and in our everyday life, we cannot classify it as being a soft landing or the economy is doing well. It is mere talking points for politicians, or better yet, I call it white noise. And as I previously stated, it is the everyday expenses and housing costs, including rent and our mortgage payments, that are the biggest reasons why people are unable to even save for their retirement. It is just not feasible realistically at this point for many people. It's super inflation, and it eats into the pocketbooks like Pac-Man and Mrs. Pac does. Now, the share of people 50 and older who say they do not expect to retire has remained steady. In January of 2022, it was 23% and 24% that July. This was according to a study that is conducted twice a year. Furthermore, the report goes on to say that we are seeing an expansion of older workers staying in the workforce. And this is what David John, who is a senior strategic policy advisor at AARP Public Policy Institute, says. He said the reason being is part because older workers just don't have sufficient retirement savings. And it's a problem. And it is a problem that is likely to continue as we continue to go forward. Even so, 33% of the people, our respondents, 50 and older that were in this research, believe that their finances will be better in a year. Another ominous issue that also will affect America's ability to retire is the financial health of Social Security and Medicare. Now, the latest annual report from the program's trustees say the financial safety nets for millions of older Americans will run short of money to pay full benefits within the next decade. And that always amazes me. Why do you continue to take the money from others and then you say it is going to run short? That doesn't make sense to me. But their meaning for Medicaid, this is how they justify it. Medicare, which is the government-sponsored health insurance that covers 65 million older and disabled people. They're saying it will be unable to pay full benefits for inpatient hospital visits, nursing home stays by 2031. And that is according to the report's forecast. And in just 2 years later, Social Security will not have enough cash on hand to pay enough benefits to its 66 million retirees. And we cannot leave out the number of illegal immigrants that are using and obtaining funds from some of these government programs that have never even paid into it. Now, an AP and NORC poll from March 2023 also found that most U.S. adults are opposed to proposals that would cut into Medicare or Social Security benefits. And a majority support raising taxes on the nation's highest earners to keep Medicare running as it currently is. Unfortunately, we hear this shouted the loudest around election time. However, nothing ever seems to come from this. The 2022 congressional election census data released on last week showed that voters 65 and older made up to 30.4% of all voters, while Gen Z and millennials accounted for 11.7% of them. But will this data really matter this election year, as Democratic President Joe Biden and Republican candidate Donald Trump attempt to win support from the older people in this society who traditionally turn out in high numbers when there are with their policy proposals. Biden is promoting a $35 price cap on insulin for people. Is boasting about Medicare's power to negotiate directly with drug makers on the cost of prescription medications. Then there's Trump, who says through his press secretary that he will continue to strongly protect Social Security and Medicare in his second term. However, he also said there is a lot you can do in terms of entitlements and in terms of cutting. Now, what do you think about this revelation that most Americans feel they cannot afford to even retire ever? Do you feel that way? Subscribe and let me know your thoughts on what you think about what this research data has revealed. Thanks for joining me today. I will see you next time for another discussion with Dena. Ta-ta!
This concludes your daily discussions with Dena. Join us Monday through Friday at 12:30 p.m. Like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment.